You are not undisciplined because you are weak. You are undisciplined because your mind has never been trained to obey a long-term strategy. The title is not a promise, it is a reminder. Discipline is not emotion, it is architecture. As Machiavelli observed in Spirit, power begins with control of oneself before anything else. The uncomfortable truth is this: comfort has trained you to hesitate, and hesitation quietly erodes authority over your own life. By the end of this video, you will understand why discipline fails for most people and why the final shift only becomes clear after everything else clicks. Every action leaves a residue, not on the surface but deeper, where patterns are formed. The mind records what you practice, not what you intend. When a choice is repeated, the brain adjusts its expectations. Preparation follows familiarity, familiarity shapes instinct. Eventually, response replaces reflection. That is how internal wiring takes shape. Small allowances feel reasonable at the moment. A pause instead of progress. A delay instead of commitment. Comfort chosen under pressure. None of it feels decisive. Yet each instance teaches the system something precise. Postponement is an option. Over time, hesitation becomes normal. Normal becomes preferred. The body learns to relax when effort is avoided. Advancement loses its pull. Soon, emotional easing becomes the payoff, not growth, not alignment. Just the quiet release that follows withdrawal. The mind begins to associate restraint with discomfort and retreat with balance. Execution starts to feel heavy. Movement requires debate. Inner conversations replace clear direction. Consistency starts to feel unnatural. This is not a weakness, it is conditioning. The brain adapts flawlessly to what it rehearses. If it rehearses negotiation, it becomes skilled at bargaining. If it rehearses follow-through, resolve strengthens. There is no judgment in this process, only mechanics. Many respond to this stage incorrectly. They try to overwhelm the pattern with intensity. More pressure, more stimulation, more urgency. That strategy fails because the underlying loop remains intact. Force does not rewrite expectation. Structure does. Those who studied strategy understood this quietly. They prioritized order over impulse, planning over reaction. Rules established in calm moments remove the need for debate later. When behavior is decided in advance, emotional resistance has nothing to argue with. The entry point is awareness, not criticism, not self-attack, observation without distortion. Notice when exceptions appear reasonable. Watch how the mind frames delay as logic. Pay attention to moments when relief feels earned before effort is complete. These cycles operate beneath conscious thought. They disguise themselves as timing, mood, or practicality. Once seen, they weaken. Recognition interrupts automation. The moment a pattern is identified internally, it can be redesigned. Repetition works in both directions. Small acts of completion, done consistently, retrain expectations. The nervous system begins to prepare for action rather than avoidance. Calm replaces tension. There is less internal friction because decisions align with standards. Emotional steadiness increases because fewer arguments happen inside. Confidence grows quietly, not from image, but from reliability. You trust yourself because you follow through. Authority returns because your rules stop shifting. Nothing outside needs to change first. Circumstances are not the lever. The mechanism is internal, quiet, methodical, built through repetition, not intensity. Over time, the same process that once reinforced inconsistency becomes the engine of discipline. Control, in this sense, is not force. It is alignment, the ability to respond deliberately instead of reflexively. When that foundation is established, progress stops feeling heavy. It feels expected, and once expectation changes, behavior follows without negotiation. Emotion is a powerful signal, but it is a poor commander. When feeling takes the lead, decisions shrink to the size of the moment. Pressure narrows vision. Discomfort demands escape. The mind searches for speed, not accuracy. That is where standards begin to slip. Stress accelerates this process. Boredom does the same. Frustration adds fuel. In those states, shortcuts appear reasonable. Skipping steps feels efficient. Avoiding effort feels justified. The choice seems logical because it reduces tension immediately. Yet each of these responses trades future stability for present relief. Authority weakens quietly. The problem is not feeling itself. Emotion is information. The issue is timing. When reaction comes first, clarity arrives too late. Plans that looked solid in calm conditions dissolve under strain because the pause was missing. Without that gap, impulse fills the space. Regulation is often misunderstood here. It is not restraint through force. It is not denial. It is delayed, a brief suspension between stimulus and action. That pause changes everything. It interrupts reflex. It restores perspective. It allows intention to re-enter the conversation. In that interval, strategy becomes possible. A composed mind can weigh consequences without urgency. It can recall long-range aims while tension is still present. It can choose standards over sensations. This is not dramatic. It is subtle, yet it is the difference between reacting and deciding. Most people never train in this capacity. They rely on motivation. They hope feelings will align with goals. When it does not, progress collapses. The mistake is assuming discipline requires intensity. In reality, it requires containment. Those who studied long-term planning understood this well. They built systems that reduced emotional interference. Rules were established ahead of time. Boundaries were clear before pressure arrived. This was not about rigidity. It was about preserving clarity when conditions became unstable. When conduct is pre-committed, inner conflict decreases. Without regulation, even intelligent plans fail. The mind under stress reverts to familiar patterns. It seeks comfort. It avoids friction. It negotiates exceptions. Over time, those exceptions redefine standards. Consistency erodes. Confidence follows. Emotional steadiness reverses that pattern. When feelings are acknowledged but not obeyed immediately, behavior stabilizes. Actions align with values rather than mood. Self-respect grows because decisions are no longer abandoned when discomfort appears. This stability creates quiet confidence, not bravado, not image, reliability. You begin trusting your responses because they are measured. You know you will pause before acting. You know you will choose alignment over impulse. That trust compounds. Training this skill is practical. Start small. Notice the first surge of urgency. Do nothing for a moment. Breathe. Let the sensation peak and pass. Then act deliberately. Repetition matters. Each successful pause strengthens control. The nervous system learns that discomfort does not require immediate resolution. Over time, reactions slow naturally. This does not make life emotionless. It makes it navigable. Challenges remain intense, but they no longer dictate behavior. Plans endure because they are insulated from mood swings. Focus extends because attention is not hijacked by temporary states. Long-term direction becomes easier to maintain. Responsibility sits at the center of this process. No one else governs your responses. Circumstances will always apply pressure. The difference lies in how that pressure is handled internally. Regulation places the lever back in your hands. When emotion no longer commands action, discipline stops feeling fragile. It becomes selectable. You choose when to move and how. That choice is the foundation of personal authority. Everything else builds on that pause. And once you master it, pressure loses its power to derail your path. Discipline rarely announces itself. It does not arrive with urgency or intensity. It operates quietly, beneath attention, shaping behavior before emotion has a chance to interfere. When people struggle here, it is not because they lack desire. It is because they rely on effort instead of design. Willpower feels strong in theory. In practice, it fluctuates. Energy drops. Mood shifts. Pressure distorts judgment. Any system built on raw drive eventually fails because it assumes consistency where none exists. Strategic planning accepts this reality. It works around it rather than fighting it. Order replaces force. When actions are decided in advance, friction loses its grip. There is no debate at the moment, no internal bargaining, no weighing comfort against standards. The choice has already been made. Execution becomes procedural instead of emotional. This is why structure outperforms motivation every time. Quiet preparation is the advantage. Serious thinkers understood this long ago. They did not trust impulse. They trusted frameworks. Rules established during calm periods protected direction during chaos. This approach was never about rigidity. It was about clarity. When conditions change, principles remain. Internal governance begins here. You are not commanding yourself through pressure. You are guiding future behavior through foresight. Standards are set when perspective is wide. Boundaries are defined before temptation appears. The mind cannot renegotiate what has already been resolved. Resistance fades when negotiation is removed. Most people wait for readiness. They ask themselves how they feel. That question invites hesitation. Strategic discipline asks a different one: what was decided? The answer bypasses emotion. Action follows without friction because the path is already laid. Predictability becomes strength. Repetition matters more than intensity. Loud effort creates spikes. Quiet systems create momentum. When behavior follows a consistent pattern, identity begins to shift. You stop seeing discipline as something you attempt. It becomes something you express naturally. This is how reliability is built. Small routines executed consistently outperform ambitious plans abandoned under stress. The nervous system adapts to what it encounters daily. If it encounters order, it prepares for order. If it encounters chaos, it expects disorder. Nothing mystical is happening. It is an adaptation. Design shapes response. A planned structure removes unnecessary choices. Fewer decisions mean less fatigue. Less fatigue preserves clarity. Clarity supports restraint. Everything reinforces everything else. The result is not rigidity, but stability. Calm replaces urgency. When life applies pressure, systems hold. When emotion spikes, rules remain. You do not need to think harder. You simply follow what was already chosen. This reduces internal conflict. Energy is conserved. Focus extends. Confidence grows quietly here. Not the loud kind. The grounded kind. You trust your process because it does not depend on mood. You respect yourself because your actions align with your standards. Social presence improves because consistency creates credibility. People sense reliability long before words are spoken. This confidence is earned internally. Strategic planning also clarifies long-term direction. Short-term discomfort is framed within a larger horizon. Temporary sacrifice makes sense when it serves a defined outcome. Without that context, effort feels pointless. With it, effort feels deliberate. Purpose stabilizes behavior. The key is simplicity. Overcomplication invites avoidance. Effective systems are minimal. Clear start points, clear end points. No ambiguity. When instructions are precise, execution follows easily. In the future, you benefit from present clarity. This approach requires responsibility. No one else builds these structures for you. No external force enforces them. They exist because you chose to create them. That ownership strengthens commitment. You follow through because you decided to. Authority returns through consistency. Over time, repetition reshapes self-image. You begin to identify as someone who acts according to plan. That identity reinforces behavior automatically. Discipline no longer feels like restraint. It feels like alignment. What repeats becomes character. This is not about perfection. Systems allow recovery without collapse. Missed steps do not destroy the framework. You return to the pattern without drama. Stability replaces all or nothing thinking. Progress becomes durable. Strategic discipline is not visible to outsiders. It is not dramatic. It is effective. It works when attention fades. It holds when motivation drops. It carries you through moments where feeling cannot be trusted. That is its power. When decisions are made ahead of time, freedom increases. You are no longer pulled by every impulse. You move according to design. That movement feels calm, controlled, intentional, and over time, that calm consistency shapes everything else. Not through force, through foresight. Pressure reveals what preparation is concealed. When conditions tighten, excess disappears. What remains is habit, not intention, not desire. Habit. Fatigue narrows attention. Uncertainty accelerates reaction. In those moments, the mind does not rise to ambition. It returns to what it knows best. This is where many plans fail. During calm periods, clarity feels abundant. Choices seem obvious. Discipline appears accessible. Yet pressure changes the environment. Sleep drops. Stakes rise, time compresses. Under these constraints, the nervous system looks for efficiency. It reaches for familiar patterns because familiarity feels safe. Training determines what feels safe. If restraint was practiced regularly, restraint appears. If delay was rehearsed, hesitation takes over. The mind does not invent new behavior when stressed. It retrieves stored responses. This is not a flaw, it is a survival mechanism. Understanding this removes confusion. Collapse at key moments is rarely accidental. People often believe they have lost motivation. That explanation is convenient. The truth is simpler. The system defaulted to its strongest routine. Without rehearsal in low-pressure settings, discipline remains theoretical. It has no foothold when demand increases. Pressure tests structure, not character. Strong frameworks anticipate strain. They assume energy will fluctuate. They assume confidence will dip. They assume clarity will blur. Instead of fighting these realities, they plan around them. Choices are simplified. Triggers are anticipated. Responses are pre-selected. This is preparation, not pessimism. When a response is defined in advance, pressure loses leverage. There is no need to decide under duress. The decision already exists. Execution becomes mechanical. Calm replaces urgency because the outcome is no longer debated. Consistency survives intensity this way. Many underestimate the value of calm rehearsal. They wait for a challenge to train resilience. That is backward. Stability is built in quiet conditions. Repetition without urgency ingrains behavior deeply. When difficulty arrives, the pattern activates automatically. This is how reliability is formed. Strategic discipline recognizes that stress is predictable. Deadlines tighten, emotions spike, fatigue accumulates. None of this is surprising. What matters is whether the response has been practiced beforehand. Without rehearsal, pressure dictates action. With rehearsal, action follows design. Design creates freedom. Under strain, the mind seeks relief. It looks for shortcuts. It justifies deviation. Standards become negotiable. This is where progress erodes, not in dramatic failure, but in small compromises that feel necessary in the moment. Preparation removes negotiation. When boundaries are clear, there is nothing to debate. The nervous system recognizes the pattern and moves forward. Emotional turbulence may remain, but behavior stays aligned. This separation is crucial. Feelings fluctuate. Actions do not. That stability builds trust. You begin trusting yourself under strain. Not because pressure disappears, but because response remains steady. That trust reinforces confidence. Confidence reduces hesitation. The cycle strengthens. Pressure becomes a signal, not a threat. This approach requires honesty. Weak points must be acknowledged without distortion. Where do you default when tired? Where do you compromise when uncertain? These are not failures, they are data. Data informs design. Design changes outcomes. Training under calm conditions should include simulation. Visualize stress, anticipate obstacles, decide responses ahead of time. This is not anxiety, it is foresight. By rehearsing difficulty mentally and behaviorally, the mind becomes familiar with the response. Familiarity breeds composure. Over time, the strongest habit becomes alignment. When demand increases, alignment surfaces automatically. This is the goal, not heroic effort, but dependable conduct. Dependability creates authority. Others sense it. More importantly, you feel it internally. You are no longer surprised by your reactions. You are no longer disappointed at critical moments. That internal respect translates into presence. Presence enhances social confidence naturally. No performance required. Strategic self-discipline accepts that motivation fades. It does not rely on it. Systems carry behavior when enthusiasm disappears. This ensures continuity. Progress continues even during low-energy periods. Continuity compounds results. Responsibility remains central. No external force enforces this. No one else maintains the framework. You choose to prepare. You choose to rehearse. You choose to refine. That choice defines control. Pressure will always arrive. The question is not whether you feel it. The question is what appears when it does. Habit answers that question every time. Train what you want to see. When the system is strong, pressure becomes confirmation. It confirms that preparation worked. Behavior remains steady. direction holds, and that steadiness is the mark of mastery. At some point, effort stops being the issue. The real shift happens when behavior stops feeling like a task and starts feeling like expression. This is where most people stall. They keep trying to apply discipline as an action, something temporary, something they switch on when convenient. That approach never holds. What lasts is identity. Every choice leaves a mark, not just on outcomes but on self-perception. When commitments are broken, even in small ways, the mind learns something dangerous. It learns that direction is optional. Order becomes flexible. Over time, that flexibility hardens into inner noise. Decisions take longer. Confidence matters. Focus fragments. This is not dramatic. It is quiet erosion. The opposite process is just as subtle. A single follow-through reinforces trust. A small act completed without negotiation restores alignment. One standard upheld under pressure strengthens internal leadership. These moments seem insignificant, yet they accumulate faster than visible progress ever does. What you practice teaches you who you are. Most people underestimate this because they are focused on results. They want transformation to announce itself, but change at this level is silent. It happens beneath motivation, beneath emotion, beneath performance. It reshapes the way action feels. When discipline becomes part of identity, resistance drops. You no longer argue with yourself before acting. There is less friction because standards are clear. Movement becomes direct, not rushed, not forced, simply aligned. That alignment creates calm. Calm supports clarity. Clarity supports consistency. This is internal authority, not control over circumstances, not influence over others. Governance of your own responses. When that governance is absent, life feels reactive. You respond to stimuli, you chase urgency, you adjust based on mood. Years pass this way without obvious failure, yet without direction. That is the hidden cost. Time is spent managing reactions instead of building direction. Energy is consumed by indecision. Potential is diluted through compromise. Nothing collapses outright, which is why it goes unnoticed. But nothing consolidates either. Mastery changes that dynamic. When discipline is embodied, attention stabilizes. You are no longer pulled by every impulse. You are not constantly recalibrating. Decisions align with principles already established. This reduces cognitive load. Fewer debates happen internally. Focus deepens. Stability replaces intensity. Strategic thinkers understood this distinction. They did not equate discipline with severity. They valued it for its grounding effect. Structure was not punishment. It was protection against chaos, against emotional volatility, against wasted motion. Stability is power when directed inward. A regulated inner environment allows for precise action. You move when it is time to move. You pause when restraint is required. There is no drama in either. This balance creates momentum that does not burn out. Identity solidifies through repetition. Each time you act according to standard, you reinforce a self-image of reliability. Each time you override impulse, you strengthen trust in your own judgment. That trust compounds. You stop needing external validation because internal consistency becomes the reference point. This is where confidence becomes grounded, not performative, not situational, rooted in knowing how you respond when no one is watching. That knowledge changes posture, tone, presence. Social assurance emerges naturally because there is no inner contradiction to manage. You are not split between intention and action. Remaining unaware keeps the split alive. You continue negotiating with yourself. You continue making exceptions that feel reasonable. Over time, those exceptions become the rule. Identity drifts. Direction blurs. Awareness interrupts that drift. Once you see that each decision shapes character, urgency changes. Small actions gain weight. Daily standards matter. You stop waiting for motivation to align because alignment is no longer emotional. It is structural. Structure outlasts feelings. This does not require severity. Harshness fractures commitment. Stability sustains it. Discipline at this level feels calm, supportive. It removes uncertainty. You know what you do and what you do not do. That certainty reduces stress. Stress decreases because choices are settled. You are not suppressing emotion, you are contextualizing it. Feelings exist, but they do not steer, they inform. The wheel remains steady. Direction holds even when conditions shift. This is the benefit few recognize. The goal is not dominance. It is clear, the ability to move without internal resistance, to act without inner debate, to maintain direction without constant effort. Effort becomes precise. When discipline is something you become, behavior aligns automatically. Standards are upheld quietly. Progress feels steady rather than forced. Identity and action reinforce each other in a closed loop. That loop is stabilizing. Over time, the mind expects order. It prepares for consistency. Distraction loses its appeal because it no longer fits the internal framework. Focus becomes the default. This is how years are reclaimed. Not through dramatic change, but through steady alignment. Reaction gives way to direction. Confusion gives way to clarity. The internal environment becomes predictable. Predictability creates freedom. You are no longer reacting to yourself. You are guiding yourself. That guidance is calm, firm, uncompromising without being rigid. This is mastery without aggression. And once it is established, it does not need to be enforced. It sustains itself. Discipline is not a matter of pushing harder or forcing yourself to act. Real discipline emerges when your choices follow a structure, when clarity guides each step, and when self-control becomes automatic rather than occasional. When your behavior aligns with your strategy, hesitation fades. Decisions flow naturally. Momentum builds quietly because internal friction has been removed and standards, not fleeting impulses, dictate action. This is the foundation of personal authority, the kind that holds steady under pressure and grows stronger over time. Internal mastery transforms effort into precision. Challenges remain, but they are navigated with calm focus rather than reactive tension. Each deliberate action strengthens trust in yourself. Every standard you maintain reinforces your identity. Over time, alignment replaces struggle, and confidence becomes grounded in reliability rather than validation. You stop questioning whether you will act according to your principles. Action becomes instinctive. When behavior is consistent, it communicates competence and presence without performance or force. Social confidence emerges naturally because clarity and self-respect anchor your interactions. You move through the world with composure, and others perceive reliability before a word is spoken. This is internal authority made visible. If this reflection sharpened your understanding of discipline as internal mastery, consider subscribing for more psychological breakdowns and practical strategies like this. And if one idea challenged the way you view your own habits, leave a thoughtful comment. Articulating your insights strengthens awareness and transforms reflection into real growth. Continue learning, continue practicing, and over time, the control you cultivate inside becomes the foundation for everything you do. Real authority begins quietly from within.